Assalamu alaikum, Jianu, Pakhair Ragale, Ni Hao, Chuleshumme, Washmale, Ohio, Gazaimus, Guten Morgen, Privyet, hi, hugs and hellos, and a very amazing Khush Ahmadeed to everybody who's tuned into PC World and Watching World this morning, alongside the very amazing Maha Makhdoom and Shazad Khan. Hello, Maha, how are you? Good morning.
Assalamu alaikum, good morning. Hello, Shazad. I am good today. Actually, no, I am good today, but I am tired today. I think this weather, like all this humidity and heat, it's starting to wear me down.
I think that's what's happening to me because whenever it's hot, it's humid, and I think the only thing which I feel like doing is sleeping and not waking up.
But that happens in the winter too, because then it's cold and you don't want to get out of the bed. So I think all year round that.
And this is what I was thinking today when I went in for a shower,
Yeah.
and while I was standing over there underneath the hot water, and I was like, man, so it's going to be winter soon.
Yeah.
And how are we going to make it to work every day? So then I thought of that idea which I had been doing previously. I've been practicing that. So what happens is that we are not allowed to have those stove heaters in our
Yeah,
rooms
of course.
because they can be very dangerous. So early morning, since my daughter needs to get ready for the school, so they use it first, and then I have to really beg for it that okay, now I need it too. So I bring it to my room and then change right in front of the heater, and then
Okay.
probably feel better, and then come to work. That's how it needs to be done. But we hope that
Okay.
this year it's going to be lesser load shedding of the gas.
I think hopefully it should be good. But anyway, how was your weekend? Did you have a good weekend?
Well, I really didn't had a good weekend, so we had a few sad newses within the family, so we had to go over there. And this is why families are together. This is the reason why there are families that whenever somebody's happy or there's an event or if there's a sad event or an incident, so they get together. So that kept me busy over the weekend, but now
Okay.
Alhamdulillah I'm fine.
Okay,
Superb.
excellent. Okay, well, sorry to hear about the sad news, but I think we should get started with a new positive week. And
Yes.
first of all, we have the top stories for you
And
again.
today it's 5th of Zilhaj, ladies and gentlemen. A clue.
Let's take a look at Prime Minister Shahid Khaqan Abbasi inaugurates first ever LNG terminal of country in Karachi to help bring down cost of power production and bridge prevailing gas deficit.
Wow.
There you go. Maybe there'll be less load shedding.
Prime Minister Shahid Khaqan Abbasi expresses confidence that energy issues faced by country will be resolved soon and load shedding will be completely eliminated by November this year. Wow.
Whoa, that's amazing. Moving on, China again reaffirms its continued support to Pakistan and has vowed to further strengthen strategic friendship with it.
And countrywide journey of special Azadi train ends in Karachi as rousing welcome accorded on its arrival at Cantonment Station.
Interesting choice of words there.
Exactly.
Okay, and then moving on.
A romantic lantern festival was held in an ancient town in Hefei city of East China's Hawaii province to celebrate Chinese Valentine's Day.
What? Okay,
Chinese
interesting.
Valentine's Day?
Excellent. So this is the whole beauty of this show. You learn new things every day.
Exactly,
Okay,
because I just thought that Valentine's Day is supposed to be 14th of February.
and that's
Yeah.
exactly
And Chinese New Year is different too.
Absolutely, and that's exactly why we have this show. And that's what marketing does. It makes you think that something which is the creator is not the creator. Anyway, so now Shazad, you mentioned before we started the news that it's the 5th Zilhaj.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it is the 12th and final month of the Islamic calendar year, and it is very important.
And before we, indulge into it,
Yeah, I forgot.
It's perfectly all right. So let's move on towards a public service message, and it is about road safety.
Yes, it is.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so driving on a very plain, straight road is a very simple thing, obviously, for people. Even then, we have to be very careful about the lanes, and we do have to use indicators. But recently, what I've witnessed is, and the sole reason of the sad news was because of the fact that one of my family members was in an accident, and they were moving up north as well. They were driving on the hills, and for all those people who are driving on the hills, please make sure because the roads are very narrow, that you stick right to your lane. And please make sure that you do not even cross the line, even if you have to, and do not overtake. So what happens is that, you know, when we see these lines on the roads where they're after a distance, that means that you can overtake. But when you follow a straight line, or probably if, even if it's
continuous
not
line.
straight, it's a continuous line, you cannot overtake. This is what it legally means. So please make sure that you're very careful of the traffic which is incoming, and you're careful about your own lane too. Please make sure that you stay safe.
Exactly. It can avoid unnecessary tragedies and loss of unnecessary life and pain for people.
Exactly.
Okay, so that is our road safety message. But now moving on, like, as I said before, the public service message is that it is the 12th and final month of the Islamic calendar year. It is one of the most important months of the year as well. And Shahzad, you have some more information on it.
Exactly. So some more information about it is, ladies and gentlemen, that, you know, 5 of the very most important pillars of Islam, one of them is actually being held within this month on the 10th of Zilhaj, which is pilgrimage or Hajj itself. And quite a lot of it is mandatory for Muslims to go and to appear right in front of Allah in Saudi Arabia, you know, do all of what is necessary and what is farz on us as well. So what is the entire process? Why do we have to do it in Zilhaj? You know, and why do we have to carry on the legacy of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam as well? And how does it really take place? I think this is what we are talking about.
And just not just the history of it all. Also, what does it actually mean in the 21st century? What is the contemporary translation of it? And also, like Shahzad said, it is, you know, Hajj is carried out. It is something that all Muslims have to do once they're able to do it. So to discuss all of this, we've been joined by Dr. Yusuf Raza after our Ramadan special. He is our religious scholar. Assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Salam.
Okay, you're a student, religious student. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem at all. Thank you for having me.
Thank
Okay,
you.
besides Dr. Yusuf Raza, we have been joined by Mr. Khurram Elahi. He is also a scholar, and he's been on with our show multiple times to discuss the importance of
And he's
events.
still working on his PhD too. Hello, assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Walaikum assalam. I'm very good. Yes, I'm praying to complete my thesis.
Which you will. You guys are brilliant minds, so you will do great. So now, it's a very important subject.
I think let's get started with Zilhaj first of all.
Yes, what is
And the
it?
importance of Zilhaj.
Right, so Zilhaj, the first 10 days, the Messenger ﷺ said in a hadith that the holiest days of the entire year, and nothing compares to the greatness of these days, are the 10 days of Zilhaj. And so within these days, it is strongly recommended to increase the actions, increase the good deeds as much as possible, increased dhikr, increased tasbihat, subhanallah, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. All of these modes of remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in multitudes. The Messenger ﷺ and the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum during these days would do these out in the open in public spaces. They would remind each other by doing this as well as a communal effort of remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In addition, increasing in acts of charity, increasing in acts of fasting, prayers, recitations. All of these actions are to be done as much as possible within these days, and most importantly, reaching out to your relatives, reaching out to those in need as much as you possibly can with sadaqat, with charity, and the rewards for that will be multiplied manifold in these days.
Just like in Ramadan too?
So you have Ramadan and the 30 days of Ramadan, and we know how actions are multiplied there. But then we have the saying of the Messenger ﷺ that these 10 days, there's nothing like them. So we can well imagine that even more than that is to be expected of these days.
Okay, amazing. Now, all of this importance that you've put on it, that you need to increase your religiosity. Yeah. So why do we have to do it? So let's get the history of it for all those people who are watching who don't know why
Right.
this month is so special.
And why the first 10 days?
Yeah.
Right. So what we see within our culture, our tradition, no day is arbitrarily designated as being great. You will find some association of those days or of those actions with something of a landmark in the history of humanity. And so we see Ramadan is great because Ramadan marks the beginning of the revelation upon the Prophet ﷺ, and that's a huge landmark. And so for these 10 days as well, these are 10 days, the sun rises, the sun sets, the whole shebang happens. But what about them? And it is the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam, him being the epitome of sacrifice that he was, his biography, his entire seerah, as to how he went from the skepticism, or not skepticism as such, but being skeptical about the reality when he was growing up, asking the right questions, and then going through that process and not being afraid to sacrifice what he was holding on to before, growing in his faith. And then even if that growth in faith meant that he had to sacrifice his relationships, his citizenship, his life, and then eventually the life of his own son, when demanded from his own perspective, he'd given it up.
Yeah.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, no, that's enough.
Okay, so that's a really important aspect which we need to remember. But now let's move on to you, Khurram. The sacrifice of, to God that, here, I will do this, this is my son. That's a huge sacrifice. That, like as Dr. Yusuf has just said, that it was, citizenship, it was everything, relationships. Now in the 21st century, how do we make sure that this is still relevant and we know the importance of it?
Okay, there are two very important things related to Islam. Number
Let's do.
one, that
Two that we're going to talk about now.
the very first thing is that all religions come from mythology. All religions come from mythology, but the biggest days, as I said, they come from an event of a family, a father, the mother, and the son. And the God says to, like, I want your son. And the whole modern knowledge system stands on the use of brain, and it's the most non-brainy act to slaughter your son. And this is where the modern man walks in, the modern man which is living under the most existential pressures of his life in the 21st century. And he said, okay, there it goes. The priori rationalism walked in. The most important questions of our life are not answered with the brain. And this is the victory of the soul over the bodies.
Okay.
This is the victory of the totality of mankind over the brainiacs, because brain today has been transported to the AI systems. And still the mankind is asking that, why am I left if every task can be done by AI, because we can sacrifice.
Okay.
Imagine, sacrifice is the most non-monetary, most non-financial, and most stupid act as per the economics.
Okay.
Because why should I give my money to Shahzad? Because I earned it.
Yeah.
This is where
Because
religion
we're friends, bro.
Yeah, but
because we're friends.
Right.
But making it more philosophical, if you remember the movie Bicentennial Man, the robot asked that, my biggest desire is, why you all cry? Can I cry someday? Because mankind in its supreme being is not a rational being.
Okay.
Mankind in its supreme being is a moral being.
Okay.
So this act is the height of morality.
Okay.
And as you said, why and how this whole event relates with the modern man. The modern man is the most atheistic, skeptical man. And as God said, as Rumi elaborates, that you can never find God until he becomes your top priority.
Okay.
So God can never be a secondary priority. You can never find God through your son. You can never find God through your economic beings. You can authenticate every being through God, and this was primarily done by the sacrifice of
Okay,
Ismail.
so it brings you back into. Okay, so now the first 10 days, as Shahzad mentioned already, they say that these are the most important, and you mentioned that already. And Hajj is carried out on the 8th, 9th, and 10th of the month. Now, the act in itself, why do we need this build-up? What is the relevance now? Why do, we've touched upon it that sacrifice is the biggest, thing that a human being can do. But why do we need to keep having these conversations? Why do we need to keep reassessing it?
Why do we call
'Cause if we
Hajj a
know
pillar
it.
of Islam too?
Exactly.
Right. So with Hajj, the sacrifice of Ibrahim alayhi salam in a sense has been eternalized. That this is a legacy for you to emulate.
Okay.
As human beings now, this is the legacy of your father Ibrahim. So we said that every action within these 10 days gets multiplied and manifold of rewards are given for it, none more so than Hajj itself.
Yeah.
None more so than Hajj itself. And every single dimension of Hajj. Hajj includes within itself the benefits of all the other pillars of Islam. There is a constant reiteration of Tawheed, obviously within Hajj. There is the benefits that Salah brings, prayer brings in terms of remembrance, in terms of this connection with Allah. And then there is this sacrifice, in what charity or zakat does. There is a lot of financial sadaqah, there's a lot of money that you're spending rather within this act as well. And then the act of sacrifice, which is special to Hajj itself. And right, like Sarah was saying right now about the modern man being a very rational man, being a very rational being. And in that context, sacrifice seems, it doesn't fit in. It doesn't fit in. But what we see now within psychology as well, that these modern conceptions of economics, of psychology, of biology, they're falling down like a deck of cards, to be honest. A couple of centuries ago, this hedonistic paradigm of me living for myself, which was epitomized in a sense by Freud in the way he amazingly elaborated the depths of the human being, but its bottom line was that I'm serving myself. I am at the center of everything, and it's my desires. Even those psychologists who are considered to be more humanistic, even that the height of their psychological message and quote-unquote humanistic message lies a very selfish intent.
Okay, but then that leads us, okay, so then this is what you guys are both kind of picking up, and this is the point that you that we discussed before, the contemporary culture of self-indulgence.
If you allow, the person is very Orientalist, though he's not a Muslim, but he was using a metaphor of Mustafa. Khalil Gibran quotes in Prophet. They say, "Oh Prophet, please tell us about the sacrifice." And he says, "You give away a car to a charity, no problem, you can buy a car again. You give away a dress to charity, no problem, you can get the dress again. Can you give me your blood? Can you give me your arm which never comes back?" Now look at the prayers of Umar Razi Ta'ala anhu. God, I want shahada in your way. I want to give something which comes once in a lifetime. My ring, I can today give it to someone because I know tomorrow with my new salary I can get a new one. But what about the son? Elsa said, let me quote one of the biggest theater, Waiting for Godot, which informed mankind that tragedy of modern man is much more troublesome even than of the Shakespearean King Lear.
Okay.
And if you look at the normal person, meet any normal person in the community, you would find they're losing all meaning of life because they are trying to prove I buy, so I am.
Okay.
Okay, so what is the real meaning of sacrifice then? I mean, if for something which we probably offer to somebody that, okay, you know, you can use it for a while and then probably give it back, isn't it sacrifice too?
Yeah.
Maybe I might be needing that particular thing in that particular time, but since I gave it to somebody else, is that sacrifice?
Okay, yeah, and with the added to that question, with this, which isn't the same thing, is that how does this whole like self, you know, the sacrifice and the self-indulgence, how does that all tie in now?
Right.
We need to
And the
tie it
psychological
together.
effects too.
Right.
We need to
so
tie that in.
we're living in a culture. Paul Witz, he's a professor emeritus at the New York University of Psychology. He wrote, and this is back in '97, and he said that we have become a very narcissistic culture. We have become the narcissistic personality disorders, borderline personality disorders, antisocial personality disorders, and all of these disorders that have developed are a consequence of our misreading the human being and thinking a human being to be a self-contained organism, homeostatic, not requiring the other, independent of the other, and only there to satisfy his own indulgences.
So are we being very assumptuous over here?
In what way?
In the way you were saying that, you know, this is how we feel about humans these days.
This is you take the modern thinkers, the pinnacle, the most influential of them.
Okay.
Take Freud, you take Jung, you take Maslow, you take Rogers, and these are the most humanistic ones. What is the highest top of the pyramid for Maslow? Self-actualization.
Exactly.
Excuse me, that's self-actualization, which according to Frankl, according to Alama's thought, is impossible without self-transcendence.
Okay.
So self-actualization, when it becomes a goal by itself, that in itself is a selfish aim. When I'm sacrificing, like Sir was saying right now, giving something that I cannot get back, not a transaction, not a give and take, not you scratch my back, I scratch yours. This is not an economic transaction that's going on. I'll be good to you because I need for you to be good to me tomorrow. And even I'll take it a step further. I'll be good to you so because it makes me feel good. No, I'll be good to you, period. I
Okay.
don't, whatever it makes me feel,
Yeah.
whatever happens tomorrow, I need to be good to you because that's what
That's
it
what
is.
you do.
And Paul Witz goes on to write as to how this self-transcendence, this is now coming up within modern physics. This is coming up within modern biology, that those homeostatic models are failing, and this self-transcendent model is being reinforced now by evidence, by empirical evidence.
Okay, so
Right.
but the thing is, what it feels like is that some of these theories they were getting to the actual end, but they just left a few things out. So after self-realization, then it's this the
Actualization.
the self-transcendence, right? So you can't reach that without. So they missed out one layer. Okay, with that, we're going to go for a short break, and when you come back, we're going to continue the discussion on the importance of this month, and especially the 10 days, and also the fact that some people fast. What are the importance of the fasting? What do they count for? So let's talk about that on the return.
Good morning.
Just like the billboard paintings performed in Pakistan, there is another indigenous form of art performed in Pakistan, and it is the truck art. With its all colorful floral patterns, depiction of human heroes with creative aspects, ratios, calligraphy of poetic verse, and drivers' words of wisdom. This form of art is truly a part of Pakistani transport tradition. Many trucks and buses in Pakistan are highly customized and decorated by their owners. These adjourned vehicles are considered as moving art or jingle art. Because of their unique decor style, these vehicles are quite distinct in layers from other trucks around the world. Each part of the vehicle is decorated differently, with variations depending on the regional style. In Pakistan, a truck driver, owner, usually pays $3,000 to $5,000 for their vehicle's external decoration. The art embellishes such trucks according to the particular tastes of the driver. Nearly every city in Pakistan has a unique decor. The Balochistan and Peshawari trucks are heavily trimmed with wood. Rawalpindi and Islamabad trucks have permanently featured plastic work. Camel-borne ornamentation is commonly seen in trucks decorated by Sindh artists. These trucks are also representative of different local historical and cultural regions of Pakistan. Thus, these trucks are also representative of different historical and cultural regions of Pakistan, the enchanting arts and crafts of Pakistan.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. For everybody who just got tuned into PT World, you watching World this morning, alongside Shazad Khan and Maha Makhdoom.
Yes.
Today we have been joined by Dr. Yusuf Raza, who's a religious student. Well, we call him a religious scholar. He calls himself a religious student. So obviously,
Sounds
if
true
in
intelligence.
case he makes a few mistakes, he can still bear with them. And right next to them, we've got Mr. Khurram Ilahi as well. Yeah, he's an amazing scholar too as well. Today we are talking about the importance of this month, which is Zilhaj, and then the first 10 days. And meanwhile, we were talking about it. So people do fast on the first of Zilhaj and then the 8th or 9th when the actual Hajj or the pilgrimage takes place. Why?
Right, so like we said, that every action gets multiplied with respect to its reward, and that obviously includes fasting as well. So a lot of people go all the way from the 1st to the 9th. They do all fasting consecutively, but in the very least, what is the bare minimum that we should try to do, even though it's still not obligatory, but it's the bare minimum that we should try to do is the 9th of Zilhaj, and that would be a fast that would cover you for the entire year in a sense.
Wow.
Right? So, in terms of the rewards that it has to offer, in terms of the expiation of sins, blotting out of the sins, again, that comes with the caveat that we should not take these, these offers, these
What offers?
that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us that do this on this day.
And it's given.
And we shouldn't take these to an absolute that gives me an excuse and a sanctioning for whatever the hell I want to do for the rest of the year, because that sort of kills the purpose.
Absolutely. So that's the thing, yeah. It's not like, oh, if I do this, this sin will be gone, and then I can do it again, and I'll be fine. Okay, so now, before the break, we were talking about all the psychology and self-realization and self-transcendence. Now, how does sacrifice work towards nurturing this concept of self-transcendence?
Right.
That's a really tough one.
Right. So, Viktor Frankl is a Viennese psychiatrist. His entire school of thought is based on meaning.
Okay.
And meaning is that other that needs to be pursued outside of one's own desires, outside of one's own, fantasies. And so that meaning is outside of the human being. And so when Frankl talks about Maslow's, the hierarchy of needs, he says that self-actualization is going to be achieved when it's actually not pursued for its own sake. And he talks about happiness in the same context, that the more you run after these things, the more elusive they are. They'll run away from you. They'll run away from you. And it's like that butterfly that comes and sits on your shoulder when you stop chasing it. And the way to get this butterfly of happiness or self-actualization to come sit on your shoulder, one, stop chasing after this, and start chasing after something meaningful and being ready to sacrifice for it. This is self-transcendence.
I think for me, it's not even a butterfly, it's a lizard, man.
But yeah.
The lizard of happiness.
Let me add on this. The Quran says that وَفِي الْأَرْضِ آيَاتٌ لِلْمُوقِنِينَ وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. We've got signs within yourself, which we call as nafs, the conscious part of the being, which is timeless.
Yeah.
And then there are signs outside in the universe. One is taken by a meditating Buddha, and one is taken by the scientist. Hajj is that amazing part. If I recommend everyone to read Dr. Ali Shariati over this. He's an amazing Iranian scholar. After Iqbal, I have no one to look at apart from him. And he says that I have one approach, either to sit in the room, but then I miss all the social injustices which are happening out there.
Okay.
Like Buddha was in the jungle when people were killed in the cities.
Okay.
And he said, then when I go for the science, and my life becomes meaningless. Look at the last lecture of Bertrand Russell, the biggest atheist, who wrote Why I'm Not a Christian. He wrote, there are two intellectual problems of the mankind. One is intellectual and another is moral. I may have answer for the first one. I don't have an answer for the second one. No one would ever have. And I think we will be needing the religion back.
Okay.
And Hajj is what? You travel from across the earth towards a one center point with the ayat of nafs, the signs of your nafs, and the signs of the outside world. You actually pick up a stone. I mean, you don't meditate and throw all the negative thoughts out, which is taken through by standing among the people. There's a very strange fact people don't know about Muhammad Ali. He was not a Muslim earlier. He was a member of State of Islam, which is a deviated thought of Islam. But when he traveled to Makkah, and he understood Zilhaj, which is the whole theme of today's show, and he said, when he looked at the white guy, the brown guy, the black guy, and he said, oh my God, this is Islam. Rabbakum allazi khalaqakum min nafsin wahida. The West today explains us the modern humanism that take care of the dog, that take care of this, that take care of that. But the God says that I have created all of you from nafse wahida. Wear one simple dress. Either you're a millionaire or a trillionaire or what. Wear one simple dress. Eat simple food. And do you know the best thing about Zilhaj? The best thing about the Zilhaj? Don't kill others, even it is a fly. The whole universe is an extension of our conscious morality.
All right.
As per Niels Bohr physics also. The whole universe is nothing but the personal morality which I
Okay.
extend. And do not kill anything. Go back
Okay.
to the day one.
Okay, so now the thing is, you guys are picking up some really important things that about, the internal and the external. But the fact that the mind, it's a really powerful tool. It shapes our thoughts. So you mentioned before about doing acts selflessly, but actually more often than not, they are selfish acts because it's to make ourselves feel better,
And I
to
think-
pursue happiness.
Yeah, and I think Dr. Yusuf Raza made a very amazing point that you're being good to somebody so that when you know
feel
that they're
better.
going to be something later, a few days later, a few months later, they'll be nice to you too.
Okay, so now how do we? Okay, so I know I've asked this question 1,000 times, but I'm also a listener to you guys, and I'm sure this is what some listeners are feeling. That how do we get to that point where we're not doing it for alternative motives or reasons? That actually, I'm going to do this good deed because it's a good thing to do, not because God's watching and I'm going to get blessings.
So let's
because of it.
learn from examples, Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam.
Yeah. So how do we now translate that to now?
See, Ibrahim alayhi salam, everything that he's done, he's never thinking that I've done enough. To the point that he's willing to go to the nth degree, that Allah has to come and reassure him, you've done enough. You've done enough. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is our role model, right? And he wouldn't beat around the bush. Kana khuluquhu Quran. His character was the Quran. Quran says, Qulu qawlan sadida. Be very straightforward in your speech. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to seek refuge from Allah, and he said, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min sharri nafsi. That I seek refuge with you from the evil of my own self. So if he, being the chosen one of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the last and final prophet, the Sayyidul Anbiya, that's the messenger, the leader of the prophets, and he is acknowledging, I have evil within myself, I need Allah's refuge from it. So taking from that, I would shudder from that situation where I am absolutely certain and sure that that action was definitely real sacrifice and it had no ulterior motives. I would shudder to be in that place because that is the state of a hypocrite. That is the state of the Khawarij, that they have such a level of certainty. The state of the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu used to say that if I were to know that there is only one person going to paradise, I would hope that it's me. And if I were to know that there is one person going to the hellfire, I would fear that it's me. So to that balance between fear and hope that is necessary to keep this cycle going, I genuinely can't say for sure, were my actions sincere, were there ulterior motives? This uncertainty should create that motivation that should keep me going and keep me doing more and not make me complacent or arrogant for that matter.
That is
really
fabulous.
interesting.
But the only thing which I want to ask is that why is it so important for us to be conscious about our selfless or a sacrificial act?
Because if
Yeah.
you allow,
Sure, sure.
Sir would agree because he's quoting so wonderful things from psychology. All the psychologists failed, and now the Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi is coming back. You
Yeah,
look at-
that's
yes, he's back in the track. He's back in the place. Because Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi said, I want God to authenticate my being. Because I don't want any object, I don't want any being to authenticate. I don't want any human being to authenticate me. Because God is the only corresponding infinite being.
Yeah.
You look at any object, physics is nothing but an temporal knowing. But there is one rule of physics which is very, which is very permanent. That is the second law of entropy, the second law of thermodynamics, that disorder increases. So how that disordering world can authenticate me, because I have a soul which is ageless. The psychology speaks about it. We are continuously chatting with someone within ourselves who is ageless. And that is our Ruh. And the Ruh is never gonna stay happy until it meets its lover, and that's the God. And where Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi said, please remove your ego between you and him. So you can see him with the clarity, not with the lens of your personal ego.
Okay.
So that's it.
Okay, so now this is the thing. This is the.
I'm still confused. I mean, I think I asked a very different question. My question was, why was it necessary to be so conscious about your
I think that
selfless
makes
or
sense.
sacrificial acts? So it's not about ego as well. It's not about. And I don't think that it has to do anything
that's what
with
they're
logical
saying.
thinking as well.
But that's what they're saying. It doesn't matter. Like, it's not up to you to decide if it's a selfless or a selfish act.
Yeah.
That's up to God. That's
I
what
mean,
they're
if you're
saying.
doing something, just do it. Don't think about it.
Again, the
You have to think
fear,
about things.
Yeah,
Shahzad.
no.
the fear that it may not be the best, the most charitable, the most righteous act, that's necessary to keep me humble. And the hope that it was charitable, that it was genuine,
Will make you feel
that
like
was
doing it over and over
yeah.
again.
So both of those things are in it. Just to add on to one point, and this fits in very beautifully with the ritual of sacrifice itself. When Maulana Rum says that he wants God to validate his being, and Alama is he's the
Disciple of-
the disciple of Maulana Rum, and if you take anything, there's so many things in the reconstruction in Alama's poetry, then through legislating these legacies of sacrifice, God is validating himself through our sacrifices as well. So this is a very mutual validation.
Yes, because
Okay. Yeah.
God is absent and we are present. So
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean,
Wow.
this-
This is
this
getting
is
really
the
deep.
thing.
Let's not go
Wait,
down
wait, wait.
that-
No,
that
no, no.
line.
We are going to go
it's,
down this.
God is,
But we have to talk
God
about
is an
Hajj too.
absence which is continuously present. So we are a presence which has a continuous absence in the history of
Okay,
time.
so that's enough. That's fair enough as well. And I think we just have like almost 7
What
minutes.
do you want to talk about?
And we want to talk about the process of Hajj and what do we do
Oh, we are
on
talking about the
each and
process.
every passing day.
Okay.
Because quite a lot of people might not even know about it. So if we're going to tell them, I think they'll probably be very inclined towards going for Hajj and attempting it as well.
Okay.
So
I didn't
one
realize
day
it was
by
Hajj.
day by day, what do we do and what happens?
I've never done Hajj.
Yeah, but so you might have read about it. Anybody
No, but they don't want to
who
go
can
to
tell us
depth about it
Hajj?
because they don't have the books with them.
Anybody who can tell us about Hajj?
Okay.
Anything?
Yes, from 8th Zilhaj, you do the niyat and you all wear common dress.
Yeah.
So we go back to the age of Habil and Kabil, and the mistake which Habil and Kabil did, don't do that.
Okay.
So that's our first niyat. Don't kill anything, even it's your enemy, even it's anything. And then we move forward to the next day. We do Sa'i. Sa'i is nothing but Sa'i has single message. Sir would agree. Respect your mother. Mean Islam is a religion of mankind. It's not a religion of
So every act has a purpose, which
Has a
plays a
purpose.
psychological, social purpose.
In
And
addition to
actually-
that, the sacrifice of Hajar, right? It goes a long way for men to realize that it wasn't just a guy thing, right? Then within the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the legacy of his wife is
The
as
sun-
important.
the sunnat is of Hajra, of a female, and then we continue. Then we travel.
Okay, sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt because there's so many other points. Because we will be talking about the actual pilgrimage in tomorrow's program,
All
the
right.
actual the breakdown of it. But this is the important part. You know, we talk about Ibrahim, peace be upon him, but his partner was as important. You know, this whole process is part of that as well. Do we give it enough weight?
And the reason behind it is that, the son asks Ibrahim to please ask for the permission from my mother too. And this was one of the shariats which he had put in, and I think that was being
Exactly.
done
So why do we not highlight this?
It was a very we're a very patriarchal society. What do you want me to say? It's a very.
I want you to say that.
I said it.
Okay.
It's a very mutual. Again, Ibrahim alayhi salam, his legacy, it does not diminish anything. If we talk about the greatness of Hajra, salamun alayha, and we talk about the greatness of Ismail alayhi salam, each and every one of them in their own place, they're paragons by themselves. Each and every one of them, which is why in the commemoration of the sunnah and legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam, Hajra is not left out.
True.
Ismail is not left out. It's again the importance of the other to the self. That even the self, which was as great as Ibrahim alayhi salam, required the other of his wife, of his son, and their mutual cooperation to make this sacrifice for the ultimate other, that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his validation coming from the otherness of human beings. And so this mutuality between the creator and the created, something which most religious perspectives ignore, that they create such a huge chasm between the creator and the created that there is nothing left in the middle except you fill in the blanks with idols.
Yeah, okay. That's really...
So yeah, so how do you
Right,
think we're
that's
going to wind
intense.
this up? Yeah,
Okay,
how do you think we're going to wind this up?
So
sir?
Khurram, what would you
We're
like
going to wind this up by telling people that Hajj is all about going back to the day when we said Alastu bi Rabbikum, Kalu Bala, but we were in astral conditions, and Shazad, me, sir, everyone, every cameraman in this room, we all said, all the souls were standing and we all agreed to God, yes, you are the creator. But when we came onto the earth, the political, social, economic pressures, all the glitters and all the hedonistic needs of the earth has just deviated us so much. And this is a recall of the same word, Labbaik Allahumma Labbaik. Oh my God, to whom I agreed years ago, oh God, I come back again. Can I quote something from Heer Waris Shah in Punjabi? Heer akhya kaziya pajiya, tako takida padna nikah mera. O earth, you're trying to indulge me here. Pehle roz mein lad ishq de lagi. I fell in love with the God from the day one. Rab bakhshiya kul hisab mera, which sir was quoting. You just fast for one day. I'll give up everything for you. Because ya yul insanu ma gharraka bi rabbil kareem. God asks the mankind, what's wrong with you people? Why are you not coming back to me? So Zilhaj, why it is, if I'm correct to say, more important than Ramzan, it's the day when we meet back. It's the day when we do the union with the God.
Okay,
Very nice.
very nice. Don't you
Summing up, oh, that's hard.
Yeah, this is a very intense conversation.
That's what your job is.
As mankind, we don't know when to start and when to stop. There are two things we don't know.
Just live it like Ibrahim.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you very much. Thank you
And
very
with-
much, gentlemen, for
Thank
being
you
with
so
us.
much for being with us
It
on
was
a
lovely to have
very
you.
deep philosophical topic. And you know, at the end of the day, we really need to learn and study our own religion, our own history, because until we read it, we're not actually going to know the significance of these events or of these things that are part of our religion, of the different pillars of Islam. And you know, other people telling you the beauty and the importance is not the same as reading it for yourself, and you'll never truly understand it until you see it with your own eyes.
And just don't read it. Once you read it, practice it too as well. I think this is what the entire concept is. So please do not forget to write to us on our Facebook fan page, which is with the name of,
Well, this morning.
on Twitter,
Well, this morning without a
on
G.
Daily Motion and YouTube,
Well, this morning
and the Fabulous Repeat's going to be at.
at 11 p.m.
And before we sign off, you know, the best part is as soon as we say our, you know, ending words, all the cameramen just leave the studio. So ladies and gentlemen, it's about time that we leave the studio too. 1, 2, 3,
Good
good
morning.
morning.